Hi, this is Carl Burkhart with the Mother Nature Network, and I'm sitting next to Sean Pander, who's the Sustainability Manager of the City of Vancouver, and we're here during this Vancouver Olympics. And there's been explosive growth in just preparing for the Olympics, but from what I understand, it's been a very, very high level of environmental considerations have gone into the construction. So I'm curious about some of the things that the Olympic Village has done and sort of how that's shaped maybe the city's thinking about how the city itself is growing.
Absolutely. Well, the Olympic Village is located in a neighborhood called Southeast Falls Creek, and it was sort of one of the last pieces of old industrial land, brownfield land in the city, but right on the waterfront. So it's right near the urban core, right on the water. So a fantastic opportunity. And when we won the Olympic bid, part of what made us the winner of the 2010 games here was that we did promise with VANOC to do a very the greenest games ever sort of thing. And when we looked at the Olympic Village in Southeast Falls Creek, really the Olympics started catalyzing us. Well, okay, we've made these promises and we've got a deadline now. And so there really was not only the will, but there was a timeline, and that really mobilized a lot of concentrated effort to get the job done and to do it really well, because we knew the entire world would be here in a few years. And so if you look at the Olympic Village, the entire Olympic Village is LEED Gold is a minimum, right? LEED Gold buildings at a minimum. We've got Canada, and I think probably North America's first net zero net zero energy multifamily building is in the Olympic Village. We've got the LEED Platinum, we've got a community center. Actually, the whole neighborhood just today got awarded U.S. Green Building Council LEED Platinum for neighborhoods, most sustainable neighborhood on the planet. So we just got that recognition today for it. A big part of what got us that was, if you look at all the heat energy. Now, electricity in BC is a little bit different than other contexts. Most of our electricity is hydroelectricity and green already, so it wasn't really a big play in the neighborhood to do green electricity. The big thing was how did we get our heat? And the city actually built what we call our neighborhood energy utility, which is sort of a centralized plant where we have a heat pump that extracts heat from the sewer system. So we have this, when people take a shower or whatever, you use that hot water for like 2 seconds. You heat up water from, low temperature, and you heat it up so it's nice and warm and comfy, and you use it for seconds, and then it's down the drain. And so we're extracting the heat out of the sewer system using a heat pump and distributing it through the entire neighborhood through hot water, and then using heat exchangers. That's how we heat all the hot water in all the buildings, not only in the Olympic Village, but as Southeast Falls Creek builds out. I mean, it's going to be a neighborhood of 16,000 people. So it's it's a big development, and that really, doing the LEED Gold for green buildings in the village and doing the district energy system for the village, requiring electric vehicle charging infrastructure with the developments, and wrestling with those problems, and the developer. It's great for city officials to do this, but it's really great to have a developer wrestle with, okay, your requirement's this, but there's no spec, or there's no code, or there's no safety standard, or whatever, and working through all those issues. Really, we've sort of expanded the capacity, the architects, the engineers, and the bureaucrats in the city, the capacity to think about energy and to think about renewable energy and to think about passive design. That capacity really grew. And now, we took that and we've moved, now all rezonings in the city have to achieve LEED Gold with 6 energy points. And we're looking at district energy opportunities. We've said, wow, we knew the conditions that made that district energy utility successful. We know, it's not, we didn't get focused on what's the right technology. Really, you focus on the economics and you focus on the load. And we say, well, where else will load develop? And what are strategies to bridge until we have enough load to justify the expenditure of a renewable system? And now we're looking at entire sections of the city where we may have an old steam heating system for a hospital and said, wow, you know what, it's an easy move to convert from a natural gas boiler to do maybe a biomass boiler. And to do that, and then instead of looking at it just at a hospital, we're trying to engage the province, which controls the hospitals, to say, instead of thinking about this as just a utility that serves a hospital, we can rezone the entire community around it to require connection. Once you put in a green district system. So, we're looking at where do we have these existing steam systems. We're looking at where do we have large site developments similar to what we learned in the Southeast Falls Creek model. And we have quite a few of those coming up, large site redevelopments that are coming up. And we start to go, wow, we know we're going to make them at high density, and it's a pretty quick step to, okay, We know you're going to have a district heating system, and you might not start on a renewable source. Again, there's this economics of how do you justify that high capital cost, but if you design the infrastructure in the ground and you have a bridging strategy, you might start with just a centralized natural gas boiler, which you'll need eventually anyway for peak loads and backup heat, but then you build it so that, okay, 5 years down the road, well, there's enough load, boom, we're going to put in the renewable energy source. And we've got 7 active studies on big parcels to say, okay, and I'm pretty confident they're all going to lead to renewable district energy systems. And what we've learned at looking at, some of the leading cities in Europe is once you've established those nodes, they grow at the boundaries, and you can really grow them. So we're looking at, okay, we've got a node here and a node here. Now we're starting to look at those neighborhoods between the nodes and say, well, what kind of zoning do we want to put in place? What kind of densities require? What kind of building requirements in terms of the in-building heating system? So those are really, the Olympics have led to this whole revisioning. So we've had our historical success of, peaking our greenhouse gas emissions in the year 2000 and bringing them down back to 1990 levels, and we'll be 6% below by 2012. But that's just the first step.
Right.
We're really looking now at all kinds of, waste is food, and I think we're starting now to look at, we've got a lot of waste wood in our waste streams, and we're starting to go, that is a resource. That's going to be the next sort of black gold, as it were, and we're moving to, we've already got, great diversion rates from landfill, but, that's going into recycling and whatnot. But now we're really moving and looking at, and we're going to be introducing, separation of organics out of the waste stream. And instead of just composting that, we want to introduce, we're now looking at and sort of taking some cues from London in the UK and saying that food is the first step of the compost really produces methane, which is like a natural gas. And so how do we control that so that methane doesn't escape? Because methane being a terrible greenhouse gas or global warming gas, how do we maximize the production of the methane, but capture that methane, which is again just natural gas, to make heat and power, and then the end product, again, now you've got a soil enhancer and a fertilizer.
Yeah, fantastic. So Vancouver is now about 4.5 tons of CO2 per capita. Is that about right?
That's right. Yeah, we're at 4.6 tons per person. Yeah, that's the lowest carbon footprint of any city in North America, and actually a little bit surprising to us when we did a survey of sort of leading recognized cities in climate change around the world. There were only 1 or 2 that were ahead of us. So it really competes. We didn't find any actually in Asia, in the developed world, that is that were better than that. No, we're just 1 or 2 in the UK, in Europe.
And the project, the Olympic Village project, did that help lower did it participate in this final low figure, or was it, I know you were pretty good even before you started Olympic Village. But.
Right. Well, it did somewhat, but one of the things that I think, we're really recognizing is for our long-term success, we've got to do the new construction, now, so we don't leave ourselves with a legacy. But the real big game is on the existing buildings and the existing loads. So the Olympic Village probably didn't, it minimized the growth a little bit because it's so much more efficient. But, I wouldn't say it's key to our success in where we are right now. Right. I think it's more key to our success of where we're going to be in 2030.
And what do you think in 2030 the CO2 footprint's going to be, the average Vancouver?
Wow, our footprint's now 4.6. We have a plan, actually. We're going to strive towards a 33% reduction below that. So that's below current levels, which are the same as 1990, very conveniently. So we want to be 33% below 1990 by 2020. We think it's possible. It's going to require some bold moves, energy retrofit, the financing district rules, heating. The district heating, both for new construction, but looking at those legacy steam systems and converting their loads and then expanding from there. The deployment of electric vehicles will start to play a role. Electric vehicles, we think, are a huge part of our light-duty vehicle sort of low-carbon future, but really the scale of deployment by 2020 won't be big enough. But when you get to 2030, so I actually haven't done a calculation out to 2030, but we'll be 33% less of 4.6. So take 1 and sum off that. Yeah. We'll be down around 3 tons per person by 2020.
That's fantastic. Well, it's a great model for the rest of the world to be looking at. So thanks for doing all your hard work. Greening Vancouver.
I often say, it's a privilege to be here because if we can't do it in Vancouver and we can't share the lessons we learned, really, we've got a lot of opportunities here that I think other cities and don't have. So I think it really, the responsibility falls on those cities and those places that have that opportunity to go as fast and as hard as you can and then share it.
Right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And you want to do a
Can I
quick.
ask you a few questions?